Once again, welcome to Tim Goonan reads his blogs from Blogger. My blog called Ben Emet, and this is also from 2013. This is a two-part series, two-part blog. It's called 10 Easy Steps to Practical and Sensible Biblical Literalism. Part 1. Step 1, the 10 Commandments. These are your baseline. Strive to apply these in everyday life, but don't expect to apply them perfectly. The great men and women of the Bible are as close to God as human beings get, but they still fell short of perfection. The purpose of the animal sacrifices in the Bible and Yeshua ben Yosef's self-sacrifice via a Roman execution on the Hill of the Skull around about 2,000 years ago was to cleanse us from God's perspective for failing to live by the 10 crucial laws of the commandments. Step 2. God is on God's side, not ours. As he succinctly reminded Joshua, as the commander-in-chief of the ancient Israelites prepared to take down Canaan. This means God and the Bible are not to be used as a pretext for obnoxious self-righteousness. Too often people seize upon the Bible and God to justify outlandish, antisocial, and divisive behavior. Step 3. The Bible means exactly what it says, no less and no more. For example, the Bible will tell you that the love of money is the root of all evil. It will not tell you that money is the root of all evil. Religions are what they are because they add and subtract things from God's holy word. This is expressly forbidden in the Bible itself. Thus, biblical religions are, by definition of their own particular extra-biblical codes, anti-biblical. Nonetheless, put on your rose-colored glasses. The theme of the Bible is God's love and forgiveness for his people Israel. Our initial thoughts on people and matters should be imbued with compassion, but forget about human-run religions as a source of spiritual enlightenment. It's not to say you can't have a spiritual experience. It's just that you don't need to be part of a human organization or even a church to experience God's power, his grace, his presence, his mercy, his forgiveness. God can bring those to you in anywhere and any time that you call upon his name from his mercy and compassion. I'm not telling you to give up synagogue or church. Just keep your hopes high and your expectations low in that department. Take sermons with a grain of salt, such as Saul of Tarshish tells us, that is St. Paul. Study to show yourself approved. It's up to you to look after the spiritual, mental, and physical health of yourself and your family. Taking the word of a so-called expert just won't cut it. I'll tell you a few things for free. A. The theory of evolution is composed of 90% imagination. In other words, it's just people's ideas. It's not fact. It's ideas based on data, which you can also interpret to say the world was created in 6 days, 6,000 or so or less years ago from the Bible. B. Vaccinations don't work, but make lots of money. C. Preventative medicine is the only medicine that really works. And what real preventative medicine is eating and thinking healthy. Think about it. If you have a complete diet and it's a healthy diet and you have fresh water, you will be as healthy as you can be when you encounter any viruses or bacteria. In fact, what pharmaceutical companies do before they provide preventative medicines for third world villages and countries, the first thing to do is make sure they have a clean water source, because that's the real source of disease if the water is not clean. Anyway, step 4, give 10% of your income to charity and enjoy doing it. And this is not necessarily like a tithe to a church or whatever, unless that church, for sure is doing a lot of work for the needy. You need to make sure that the money you give is actually going to help people in need. So there's a bit of responsibility there. If you can actually do this, the results will speak for itself. Step 5, think well of your mom and dad at all times and all places. This is This is from the biblical commandment, honor your parents, that you may have a long life in the land. Firstly, because your mum gave you life, the most precious gift on earth. Secondly, because there is a point at which the human idea of God, our dad, and ourselves meet. There's a bit of psychology there. That's just my opinion. Which, to cut a complicated and long story short, mean that whatever you think of God is what you actually think of yourself. That's my opinion. That's kind of like a psychological thing. There may be a connection there, the way you view your parents or your dad particularly, or your father figure is of course linked to how you respond to authority and authority figures. So if you can view your parents in a good light, particularly your father, you're going to be more inclined to look at the laws and rules that your society has and say, well, these are actually a good idea. They keep me safe, they keep other people safe, and they'll help you avoid ending up on the wrong side of the law, which is obviously going to increase your chances of being happy and comfortable. Anyway, this is part 2. Step 6, appearance and behavior. After the Zen monk achieved enlightenment, his student asked him what he would do. Draw my water, sweep my floor, was his reply. The Bible is a guide to help you succeed in life, but no amount of biblical reading and application will free you from day-to-day duties. The Bible will not give you license to dress or tell others to dress like Gandalf the Grey or a potato sack. The Bible is not a fashion guide advocating beards or their absence, or a particular kind of haircut. There is advice in the Bible on these sorts of matters, but no laws. Modest attire is what is modest to you. Marks on the beard and the body are forbidden in remembrance of the dead, but not in general. Uncleanness relates to temple sacrifices, not day-to-day life. Hygiene is a good thing. Over-obsessing about being unclean is not. Unless you're about to make a temple sacrifice in the temple of the Most High, you cannot take extra steps to safeguard yourself, which would be to add to the Bible, plain and simple. Now, what we're talking about here is you can't add things to the Bible apart from what it says to do when it comes to cleanliness. But that doesn't mean you can't have an opinion on, having a shower or whatever every day, as long as you don't try to make it a religious rule and particularly try to put it on others. Of course, if the temple was there, you would have to follow properly. If you're Jewish and going to make a sacrifice and so on, you'd have to follow the rules for that. The book of Hebrews in the New Testament generally makes it clear that if you're Jewish, you still have to follow the rules and regulations of the Old Testament as far as you can. Step 7, the wider context of biblical application. The Torah was written for Israel, for Israelites with a temple in Israel, period. But nonetheless, there is a good percentage chance that if you're reading this, you probably had an ancestor that stood long ago at the foot of a mountain in which is now present-day Saudi Arabia, aka the land of Midian. They made an everlasting oath to the Creator of heaven and earth that you would be his people and he would be your God. That is the nature of human population movement, cultural integration, and DNA. So it behooves us all to understand the Bible. However, we should bear in mind that most biblical law relates to temple worship and how a biblically theocratic nation is to apply the written Torah of Moshe. Religions that are Bible-based are a bit like made-for-TV movies based on a real story. Religion is designed to entertain. The Bible is designed for the Israelites in the land God gave to Jacob. So how much of the Old Testament can we take as Bible believers, Christians, born-again Christians, and apply it to your life? You can't just throw it all out the window. There are basic statutes. Don't eat food sacrificed to animals. Don't eat animals that are strangled. Refrain from immorality, and don't drink blood. These are New Testament rules. Of course, Yeshua also said, when he was asked what is the most important thing, God is one. So that there are rules and regulations in the New Testament. But how much of the Old Testament are you going to apply to your life if you're not Jewish? That's really up to you, but you have to understand you're making a free choice to follow those things. You can't make a rule about it. If you just want to do it out of the freedom so you can enjoy the blessings of living as close to God's word as you can, that's fine, but you can't make a rule of it. In Judaism, they're trying to follow the Torah as best as they can, and that is the duty and responsibility, I believe, of every Jewish person, and I think they do a better job than you could even hope to expect from the traditions. So this is the law between God and his people. For Christians, we just have to do as best we can on what we have. Step 8, bless Jacob that you will be blessed. Yeshua ben Yosef was Jewish. The Jewish people are the apple of God's eye, the destiny of his covenant, and the salt of the earth, which makes all on earth acceptable to him. Step 9, judge not that you be judged. Not everyone will conform to your idea of what living a biblical life entails, no matter how hard they might try. In fact, your idea about living biblically will evolve over time, and so they should. Your ideas should evolve, that is. Be prepared to learn about living biblically from the most unlikely sources. Step 10, you are subject by God and man to the laws of the land in which you live. You can't just break laws willy-nilly, obviously, especially as a Christian. You want to, as much as you can, obviously, if they start asking you to sacrifice to idols and such, you have to pray that God's going to get you out of that place. The Bible will never justify any kind of injustice or oppression. In the world in which we live today, it never caused or justified wars, ordained megalomaniacs, this is the Bible, or sent armies to massacre throughout post-biblical history. But people did, for greed and other reasons. Religion isn't the cause of war, human nature is. People that seized upon the Bible to further their own personal or political goals. These people will be judged in the end of days by God himself. Ultimately, there will be absolute justice absolutely applied. That is God's Bible promise. Conclusion. To understand the Bible, you need a commentary-free version, written in a style you personally find easy to read, a dictionary, an open heart and mind. Commentary-free because these are just opinions. You need to find out what the Word of God means from God himself, and you can only do that by having a spiritual relationship with God, by being born again, reading the Bible in faith, and not being overwhelmed by your doubts. God is reading you when you read his word, the Bible, and he sees how you react to passages about himself, whether you believe, like some of the people believed. Mary believed straight away. Some of the other Bible characters did. Others needed more time. You don't want to be one of the ones that outright doesn't believe. Have faith. Your doubts, they seem to have power, but they are, in the end, if you examine them, irrational. The Bible can be believed and you can put your faith in it. Science hasn't disproven it, not even a single word. The translations are good. You can get interlinear Bible apps and you can see for yourself the translations. The concepts are very well translated. And you pray to God and he will show you, and he will meet you, and he will show you that your doubts about the Bible are unfounded. Okay, you can have faith in that. Don't give up on a religious group if they have a positive perspective on modern day Israel and are concerned about social justice. I'm sure you'll find plenty of opportunities to be encouraging, helpful, and maybe even to do real good there. The events in the Bible describes as happening have never been disproved. There you go. The Bible has never been disproved. No theory that contradicts the Bible has ever been proven true. There are no conclusive contradictions in the Bible. I have personally examined all the so-called contradictions, and they are false. As Shaul of Tarshish wrote long ago, there are plenty of attractive-sounding ideas out there, but they don't bear close, honest scrutiny. People believe in ideas such as evolution and the Big Bang, not on the strength of these ideas, but because they want a pretext not to obey God and the Bible, and also most obviously they want to fit into society. In other words, They have the fear of man upon them. If you believe in the theories and ideas of this age, then it's because of the fear of man. The fear of man is upon you. When you believe in God and the Bible, it's because the fear of God is upon you. And the fear of God, power of God is greater than that of the world. So if you put your trust in God, He will bring you through and enable you to have faith in those tears over time. But God is accepting. He will accept us for who we are, wherever we are, wherever we're at. God will work with us. We're not going to have it all understood at the first. If you start out and you're believing a bit in God, but in the Bible, it's okay, but you got to move through. You got to progress. All we have to do is to call upon His name. All right, that's my two-part blog for today.